Welcome to the video that I am creating for you to help you navigate step 3 of this process, which is the lens tool. And it's really the project, our magnified giving project, that allows us to incorporate our learning of probability and statistics into analyzing the finances of your chosen nonprofit that you've decided to work with through steps 1. So hopefully you've completed step 1, investigating some different causes, as well as step 2, where you chose a nonprofit and answered a few questions. I do want to make a note right now that we modified a question here on step 2 in category 3 to say skip for now. So you'll notice category 3 is actually going to be played out through step 3, which is due by Friday. So let's take a look at our different nonprofits, and I'm going to select one nonprofit right now. We'll go ahead and select this Inside Out Studios Easter Seals nonprofit. Inside Out Studios is actually a pretty small organization underneath this larger umbrella organization called Easter Seals Tri-State. And different nonprofits operate in different ways. And one interesting thing is that Inside Out Studios over the past year has created their own nonprofit. So beginning in 2021, they will have their own tax forms and 501c3 status. But for now, they are operating still under that large umbrella Easter Seals. And it's just a really neat art gallery and studio for local artists who all have some sort of physical or mental disabilities. And they do some incredible art, and it's right in downtown Hamilton. So all that to say, we're going to go ahead and do what's called the lens tool. And this tool is developed by a guy named Gene, and he created this for the purpose of helping students to take an even deeper dive into navigating how different nonprofits spend the dollars that we give them. So as you know, through this project, we get to give away $1,000. We want to make sure that we're choosing a nonprofit that would spend that money wisely. So this tool is an Excel sheet, Microsoft Excel. You're familiar with that through our evaluating standard deviation and variance and mean, all of those different calculations. Well, this is like even on a whole nother level, the calculations are actually built in. So as we enter some different data points that are all explained, and I'll get there in a second, the calculated scores will automatically populate based on what Gene has embedded into this Excel sheet as a formula, so that we can ultimately come out with a rating. So an excellent rating would be 4 stars, all the way down to a poor rating, which is just 1 star. So we will begin this process by going to the Read Me First page. And as you see here, before you start, it says, please read the instructions for how to use these worksheets. They are in a document named Guide to the Lens, and you have a copy of this in Schoology. So before entering data, make a save as copy, perhaps putting your initials and the year in the file name. Leave this template for another day. So in Schoology, you'll find this Excel workbook, and you'll want to save as your initials and the year. And then a different tool must be used for small or new charities. If you want to evaluate one of these, download the magnifying glass tool. I will say we had one charity that got eliminated from our list, known as HUGS, the Hamilton Urban Garden Systems, and that was because they are too small to make this step work. So if you selected Hamilton Urban Garden Systems, please choose another nonprofit for this step. Now, using the workbook, it says you can right-click on the charity number, tabs below the worksheet, to rename a tab to the name of the charity that you are evaluating. So let's go ahead and do that now. For this purpose, we'll rename, I'm actually going to go to Charity 2 here, rename, and I'm going to put that as Inside Out. So we know that it goes under, maybe we should name that Easter Seals, since that's the official name of the nonprofit. Going back, we'll do step by step to make more evaluation sheets. We could do that. We won't need to. Step 3, you may discover that some cells are protected. This is to prevent accidental changes to important areas. So you can't actually type anything in the associated region here. And then it says this workbook is designed for MS Excel, Microsoft Excel. Some features are not compatible with other spreadsheet software. So if you try to load this into, say, Google Sheets, don't do it. It won't work. And then next under data entry. Data entry. This is how we get to do this project in stats class. It says you may use rows 2 and 3 if you want to write the charity's purpose and or address at the top of a worksheet. It says step 2, if you paste information into the worksheet, click on the appropriate cell, then paste in the edit box in the formula bar, not in the destination cell. So what that's talking about really is this formula bar up here versus if I were to click on a given cell, that it would be something like this green box right here is called a cell. So it said, again, you want to type into the formula bar instead of the cell. We next have, if the CEO is unpaid, enter $0. Do not leave the space blank. In part 2 and 3, enter values to the nearest 1/10 of a point for each step, and enter a reason for your score in the cell to the right. So you'll see step 1 is all about finance, and then steps 2 and step 3, those are more your qualitative data, more subjective decisions that you'll be making as an individual. This is an independent step in the project. Output reports is next. So a customized report for any charity you evaluate can be found below the data entry portion of the worksheet. After completing the evaluation worksheet, you should review the last lines in all 3 steps of the report before printing. Later, you may print page 1 for yourself or your charity study group. You may also print pages 2 to 5 for a more complete report to give to a charity so they can consider improvements in their operation. So we will use this for our own purposes. We will not be printing these and sharing these with our nonprofit. About executive pay. So this is kind of a controversial issue, executive pay, how much they pay their top employee. It says one executive compensation model considers geographical location, field of service, and the financial size of the charity. Compensation up to the 50th percentile of comparable executives receive a full score of 2.0. So if a top executive is paid above the 75th percentile, then they get a score of 0. Compensation in between is proportional. So then finally, about this workbook, the Lens Guide and workbook are offered at no cost as a public service and made available for your personal use. It says the Lens Guide and workbook are offered as is without warranties for any aspect of use or for the resulting charity assessments. And you can send comments to jeangardner@gmail.com. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We have this blank Lens workbook or worksheet, and we have our Lens Guide to the Lens packet. So this is a PDF in Schoology. I have it printed out, but feel free, you can print it out if you like. And I'm going to kind of give an abbreviated version here. So the first thing that you need to do is to determine if the charity qualifies, and we've kind of already done that, narrowed that down for you. And then, like as has been mentioned, you'll download the sheet, you'll make a copy, save as, your initials, the year, and then we'll move forward. We need to make sure we've got that exact name of the nonprofit when we Google it, so that we can find the resource that's going to be our main tool here to begin with. And that tool is the 990 tax form. So kind of skim through the first few pages there, and we'll go to charity official name, and that should be listed. So I'm going to go to the website here, and I Googled Easter Seals Tri-State. That's the full name. And I came to this website. I searched for 990 tax form, and nothing popped up. So maybe I just type in 990, see what happens there. And there it is, 2018 form 990. So I clicked on that, and here I have the name of the organization. It's just what I had expected. It's Easter Seals Tri-State. I'm going to type that in. The evaluator is you. So you're going to type your name in there. And then the charity EIN. The charity EIN is actually their employer identification number. So that's a specific number that they actually receive when they are an official nonprofit organization. So we'll type that in, 31087. So I'm going to actually split screen here. So we have 31-087 3433. And then the next says to select your state, and you can see here the address is Ohio, so that is clear that our organization is located in Ohio. Which then you see it auto-populated here. The associated region is the Midwest, and that factors into that compensation piece of the highest paid person. So that would differ based on where you're located in the country. So then we have row 7 says select a field of service category. I can find out that information by looking here at briefly describes the organization's mission or most significant activities. And you can see described here, it talks about empowering individuals with disabilities and disadvantages to more fully live. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this drop down here. And I'm going to select, we're going to go down here to human services. So that fits under human services. If you have a question, I'm not quite sure how to categorize that. There can be multiple different options that would potentially apply. So just try and make your best decision there. Now we have the year 9 of the 990, or pay close attention, it says, or the 990 EZ. So I need to be aware there's 2 different types of tax forms mentioned, the 990, which is what I have right here, or the 990 EZ. It's going to make a big difference. So if there's not an EZ, then it's just a 990. If it's an EZ, it'll have a big letter E and Z right there in this top left box. So I'm going to type in the year, which is over here, says 2018. Leave that EZ box empty, and then today's date. So I'm going to type in today's date, 12/1, December 1st, 2020. Now I'm going to go to the finance. So I have this is kind of like a scavenger hunt on your 990 tax form. But Thankfully, Jean made it easy for us by including these little notes in the top right corner of the cells. So for current year revenue, when I hover over that red triangle in the top right corner, it says IRS Form 990. That's what I'm using. It says look on page 1, line 12 in the current year column. So I'm going to go to page 1, line 12. So line 12 is here. It says prior year, so I'm going to go to current year. So the current year, it says, is 16,536,000. And sorry, I lost my place here. 149. And then it says current year's expenses, which is on my IRS form. Look on page 1, line 18. So I'm going to go here to line 18, and I'm going to go to the current year column again. And it says 16,240,000. Sorry, 16,240,957. Next is the prior year revenue. So we bounce back up and go to hover again, it'll tell us page 1, line 12, and you'll see prior year was 17,438,576. Now what happened here is that the calculated score indicates, as you hover over that gray box, the maximum of 2.5 points for robust growth relative to the charity side, 0 points if minus 5% or lower. So you can see that they brought in $1 million, over $1 million less in 2018 than they did in 2017. So that could mean some negative things for the agency, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe they had something like what's going on with Inside Out Studios, where they had one of their nonprofits underneath their umbrella decide to go out on their own, which is completely explainable. So we have the option to leave notes in the finance step, but it is not required in this step. It is required in the coming steps. The next steps, I'm going to actually just kind of jump over here. I don't want to confuse you. I'll stay on this one. We have the amount of largest revenue source, and you'll see here it says to look on page 9 and find the largest number among lines 1A through 1G. So I'm going to scroll down, and you'll notice the page numbers are in the top right corner. So there's page 3. I'm looking for page 9. There's 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then I'm going to look at 1A through 1G, and I'm looking for the largest number here. And so it looks like the largest is 948,254. 948,254. Again, auto-populated, doing those calculations for you, it's a 1.5. So that was the maximum that could be scored, and that is because that largest, and these values all represent different sources of income for the nonprofit, since that's less than 50% of their total incoming dollars, then that's a good thing. So that's why we receive full points for that category. Next is the amount spent this year on programs. So we'll take a look at page 10, line 25. You can see, so page 10 should be the next page down. We'll scroll down. Line 25 says here, let me go back and hover. Column B. Line 25, column B. So you see 13,603,591. We got a 3.2 there. Total 4 points possible. So that's maximum of 4 points if 90% or more of expenses are used for programs. So we want the dollars that we give to an organization to be utilized in the impact they're having on the community, and not just paying staff necessarily. And lastly, speaking of, is figuring out how much that top paid staff person makes. So let's go here. It says page 7, column D. So I'm going back up to page 7, 9, 8, 7, column D. So what I'm finding here is that these look like volunteer positions. So I'm gonna look up. So the pages are sometimes out of order. So let's see if we can keep scrolling down and find another page where we see compensation. Let's see here. Let's look at that again. Page 7, column D. There it is. It's on page 8. So here we have reportable compensation. And you can see that Pam Green is the president and CEO, and we're in column D here, her compensation is $162,645. $162,645. And out of 2 points, Easter Shields is receiving 1.6 based on how much she gets paid compared to others in the field in that category of human services in the Midwest. So there you have probably the most challenging part is navigating that 990 tax form, finding it. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions, Zoom with me. And the next section here, I'm going to bounce to full screen, is going to really require you to follow closely in this packet. So I'll take you through step 2.1 in we'll take a break. I'll create a new video for that one. So make sure that you are just looking carefully for these numbers, making sure you have the most up-to-date 990 tax form, and filling in every single box. If you miss any of the boxes, then you won't always have these gray boxes populating like you'd like to. Now, one last note, you see that our score is currently a 6.3 with a maximum of 10 points. If you scroll down, you'll see that this is that report referenced earlier, and we have, you can see it auto-populated, which is pretty cool. You could create something like this. It's just some programming that goes into making things auto-populate like you see. So the next section will be filled in once we finish that step 2 and step 3, and finally there will be a score, number of stars that will pop up and let us know how this organization rates overall. I will say also that the rating is not our ultimate deciding factor. We're going to, in the next couple of steps, we're going to take time to email our nonprofits, and that will be a select group of students that moves on and participates in these next 2 steps, to contact the nonprofits, and then to create those short films in partnership with the media arts department over on the DRL side. So they've agreed to really do the heavy lifting for creating those short films. And then ultimately by our last week of school, we will watch those videos and take a vote and make a decision on who will win our $1,000 that we have to give away thanks to Magnified Giving.